right, who's doing the intro?
All right, and ready for clap?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. All right, good work.
Perfect.
Good. Okay,
Right.
easy.
Yay.
First try.
Yeah. Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes. Oh my God, by Tappin CJ. He said it good. What a nice guy. I'm joined today. Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Big Cock 26. He says, this gay, nah, it's really good.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Big Cock. Really great review there.
That's some
really
high
glad
quality
you left
stuff.
that there for us.
Here you go.
Yeah, the Misfits Podcast, the only podcast less consistent than my YouTube channel. It's been like shit.
2 weeks.
Fucking weeks.
Been about two-
Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Halo Freak 108. He says, if you're a child and listening to this podcast, you have daddy troubles. Possibly accurate.
Hello, my children.
Hello, fellow 9-year-olds. I'm 21 years old. That was a weird thing to say. Swagger Souls is with me today.
What's going on? Daddy Souls here.
Also joined by Notorious, aka Matt. Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on. Oh my! Could you guys please never?
Oh.
You never interrupt me when I'm doing the intro.
I was-
You just know.
You said hello. I was just saying hi back.
We're a top of the charts podcast now. You can't fuck up the intro.
When did
Oh,
this
sorry,
happen?
sir.
Forget it. Rated 5 stars on iTunes by Bainsley101. He says, every time I listen to one of these, it makes me jizz a little in my pants, and I can't wait for more. Bainsley, clean yourself up. You're
It's
disgusting.
fucking disgusting.
Every time I record, I just a little in my pants.
Guess who's back this episode?
I'm back, boys.
Why are you across the room? Why are you like on the
Why
other
were you
side of the room?
outside?
Right
I needed to make some sort of dramatic entry. Fuck, come on.
They can't see
It's been a whole 2 weeks, man. Give me a
has,
break.
has.
Hasn't it been 3?
No, fuck, I don't even know anymore. I lost count of time.
Yeah, you can't count to 3.
I can't.
All that
yeah,
weed
okay.
you smoked.
Yeah, it's been 2 or 3 episodes since Zuckles has been on, but he's back now. Guess who's not here? Mick Creamy. There's no excuse. He just didn't show up. He just didn't show up today. Okay, so
Think of his shit.
I mean, we record the podcast at the same time every week. I don't understand how he didn't show up. But no, he's not here. But no, I'm joined today by iNut, aka Matt.
Yo.
Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Yurt. He says, this is the most autistic thing I've ever listened to. What do you think of that, fellas?
This guy.
Something like that.
If you guys, if the listeners, okay, stop, please.
God.
I mean, if the listeners at home heard what happened before we clap synced it just now and started the podcast, they'd probably agree. Not the healthiest conversation. I'm joined today with my co-hosts, Notorious, aka Matt. Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Fluffy X Pumpkin. She says, "Yeah, if this costed money, I would definitely buy this over the dead prostitute sitting lifeless in the car seat next to me." My goodness. What a charming review there.
Very
left
good,
to us
very
by
good.
Fluffy X
Truly
Pumpkin.
lovely.
I am joined here today by my co-host, Notorious, aka Matt.
So
Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Dallas1091. He says, it good because it good. I just can't argue with that
Yeah,
logic.
I agree.
It's good because
You
it's
just-
good.
No better reasoning than that.
I'm joined today by my co-hosts, Notorious, aka Matt.
What?
Hey man, welcome back to the Misfits Podcast. Rated 5 stars on iTunes by just another edgy well, that's a rude word. That's uncomfortable. He says, better than the time I saw 2 shirtless Mexicans wrestling over croissants in the park. Whoa, bro. Groovy 5-star review there by just
Lamau.
another edgy faggot.
That's Lamau.
Today, man, we're going to talk about a little something that went down in Melbourne that we didn't tell you last week. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Notorious, aka Matt. Yo. Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast. Rated 5 stars on iTunes by Audrey Enderman. He says, I smoked a blunt for the first time Friday and I was crying and scared of everything. I've never been more paranoid in my entire life. Thank you. You're welcome.
yeah, you're welcome, man.
Could you see how
Congratulations.
good of an influence we are, guys, when we have a guy called
Yeah.
Audrey Enderman smoking a blunt for the first time?
Sounds like he's about 10.
I hope
Oh,
that's
no.
not true.
God, no. Okay, I'm joined today by my co-hosts, I Notorious, aka Matt.
What?
Hello, and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Jetski Eskedit. He says, get Smitty in some podcasts, but good work, you cunts. Excellent review there by Jetski
Fuck that guy.
Eskedit.
Yeah, Smitty's a big little idiot.
I'm right
Yeah,
here.
we're never going to get Smitty on
I
this
don't
show.
talk to fucking Smitty.
Hey, you keep down back there. I'm going to introduce you later.
Sorry.
Smitty, hey, how's it going, best friend?
I've been
I
in
love
here,
you.
Swagger. I've heard everything you've said about me.
No, that was all a joke.
Okay.
You know how much I love you.
Yeah.
All right, shut the fuck up and let me do my shit.
sorry.
All right, I'm joined today by my co-hosts, I Notorious, aka Matt.
What?
Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Toxican Future 3. He says, it's like ASMR, but the people talking are loud retards. It still makes me sleep.
Hell yeah.
That's not too far off.
Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Munged Out. He says, this podcast makes my pee hole smile. What? Very descriptive iTunes review there by Munged Out.
That's hot as.
Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Adrian Sabori. He says, ching chang chong, I listen all night long.
That's so cool. Hell yeah.
Jesus.
What an epic review there.
Jesus
by
Christ.
Adrian. Thank you so much. I'm joined today by my co-hosts, I Notorious, aka Matt.
What?
Hello and welcome back to the Sick Dog Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Hammy Scum. He says, this podcast cured my depression, but made my head go dummy, not smart, man. Great review there by Hammy Scum.
Poor dude.
Of course, everyone here apparently is sick, which is why it is the Sick Dog Podcast today. Swagger has got
Hello.
something going on. He's
A hangover. A fucking hangover. It's fucking terrible. I want to die.
Mason, aka Zuckles, you are just the sickest dog right now. So
Oh yeah, I'm fucking the sickest dog.
he's been coughing and splattering. So, you know, if he sounds like shit, if we all sound like shit this podcast, please forgive us. Also joined by Toby on the tally, who's healthy, I believe. You healthy?
I'm healthy.
He's
What a
feeling
healthy boy.
That's good.
Wow.
Healthy boy.
Well done.
I saw spit in his drink.
Jay, aka McCreamy, is also here.
AKA Vitamin C Andy.
The healthiest boy as well. And of course, I Notorious, aka Matt, is here. Are you healthy too? Is it really just 3?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars by My Dad's Cool Cuz of My Nuts, saying, I'm a Kiwi and like the fruit, so am I eating my son or something kill me. Beautiful review there.
Masterful
Absolutely.
review.
Understandable.
Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by The Knee Grows. He says, I love listening to this instead of my teacher. Setting a great example, as always, over here at the Misfits Podcast.
Yep.
I am your rightful host, Fitz. Hello, I'm back.
I think that's
and,
me.
No, probably not.
I'm the
And,
rightful host.
I believe, like, I'm back, like I'm the rightful host, like I'm back on my stomping ground.
I don't know about that.
Why are
I
you
don't know if
back?
you guys can, I'm just, wow, rude. I'm joined by McCreamy, aka Jay.
Hi there. I'm good.
That's great, buddy. Also joined by Swagger Sauce.
Hi, I'm the rightful host.
I Nut, aka Matt.
What?
Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Big Dick 805. He says, so basically, this podcast makes me become Tracer and Winston.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Great review there. The problem is that I'm already Winston, so I mean that's just an invalid
Yeah.
review.
Well, you should.
I'm gonna mix it up this time. I'm gonna try to like mix around. You know what I'm doing here.
Hit him with the left hook.
Okay.
It's Fred Albert. It's the Misfits Podcast. No.
Do it.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Misfits Podcast.
Holy fuck.
Rated 5 stars on iTunes by That Orange. He says, this podcast makes me feel like you guys are my uncles at Thanksgiving.
Aw.
Welcome to Misfits Podcast, episode 22, with me, Fitz. It's a solo podcast this week, and I'm just going to be talking to you guys one-on-one the whole time. Rated 5.
Hi, I'm Fitz. I hate my subs.
I am Fitz.
Hello, and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Nicky's.
He says, I listen to this podcast on the train to drown out the sound of meth addicts on the Adelaide Metro. Fantastic 5-star review there.
I gotta go to Adelaide.
Yeah, we got to go to Adelaide. I'm joined today by my turtlenecked co-hosts, Zuckles, a.k.a. Mason.
What's going on, fellas?
I Nut.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Misfits Podcast.
What was that?
That was awesome.
I feel like mixing things up every time now.
I love your experimental introductions.
I'm working on it. What can I say? Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by Sophie Hallowell. She rated us 5 stars on iTunes, guys. Wow, this is fantastic. What's up, y'all? Can you fucking stop?
Fuck! Come on. Okay, fine. Go for it.
Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Wheelchair Boy. He says, this podcast, very nice. Why don't they put pedals on wheelchairs so when their arms get tired, they can use their legs to keep going? Great question, Wheelchair
It's a really
Boy.
good point.
Dude.
I didn't hear that. Can you say it again? It was just too long.
I said, why don't they put pedals on wheelchairs so when their arms get tired, they can use their legs to keep going?
Oh, wait, they can't use their fucking legs.
I see problems here. Does anyone get like restless leg syndrome where you're sitting at your desk in your chair and like you just feel like you constantly have to stretch your hamstrings?
Yeah.
Yeet and good day, everybody. Welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, episode 27. Did I get that right? Is it 27? Hello and welcome back to the Shit Mike Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by a bunch of letters. He says, I listened to this at work with my speaker on, and just as Toby said about fingering underage pussy, my manager walked around the corner. I no longer have my job.
Wait, I talked about fingering underage pussy?
I mean, probably.
Yeah, I believe it, but like I don't remember it.
Yeah, which episode was that?
I believe. Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by. He says, "Go good. It cured my mild dyslexia." Well, almost, mate. You know, sure. That's close enough. I'm joined today by my co-hosts, Mason.
Hey.
Easy. Also, Jay.
I'm here.
He's here. McCreamy. Matt is here as well. Hello and welcome back to what I like to call the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by. He says, I love falling asleep to 7 children talking about drugs. Okay. Who's the 7th child? Just saying,
There's only 6.
Yeah, g'day. Welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by I don't know 87. He says, I helped my little sister out.
Huh?
I have bought her a jewel, and she's the coolest cat in the 3rd grade.
Holy shit.
Next, we're gonna try acid. Thanks, Swagger.
Whoa.
Hey, man.
Actually,
Just bringing it in.
personally, thank you for that. What do you have to say about that?
Would not recommend LSD or nicotine to anybody in the 3rd grade.
I think you're a pretty good role model, mate.
How old's the 3rd grade?
3rd grade? I don't know.
Is that 3?
8 years old?
Old enough.
8 years old.
Yeah, old enough for a
It's
nicotine
old enough to
addiction.
party.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Not in that way. at
It's
all.
weird.
It's not,
I read this one thing on Reddit.
not what I meant.
Okay, Michael Jackson.
Sound like.
Huh? Sorry. I read this one thing on Reddit. Some fucking like teenager in high school. He gave his 9-year-old brother his jewel.
Really?
And he started hitting it. And his brother got addicted to it. And when he wanted to stop giving his brother fucking nicotine, he was like, "Oh, I'm going to tell mom and dad that you have a jewel," and and then he'd get really violent and hit them. Yeah, dude, nicotine addiction in children is fucked.
Yeah,
it is not good.
Yikes. Well, I'm sure that she's doing just great. She's getting along with her classmates. I'm sure, like
fitting in.
Yeah, it's a lot fitting in when you're when you're
Everyone
in the 3rd grade.
in the 3rd grade has a jewel.
You're in the 3rd grade. All your friends got a jewel. You got to get a jewel. Like,
That's just a rite of passage.
vaginas. How do they work? Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast.
That was the best start.
Fuck if I know.
Is that a good
I got no
start?
idea.
How do they? Hey. Keep going. Fuck off. Keep going, guys. Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast. Rated 5 stars on iTunes by Toebox. Add me on Xbox. Hello, mate. Welcome back to the Misfits Podcast. Rated 5 stars on iTunes by Tamixon. She says, this makes sucking your dick great again. Thanks, honey. So maybe that's a review you left for me.
I don't understand.
What?
What?
He says, This makes sucking your dick great again.
Who's dick?
That's implying.
Hello. Welcome back to the show. This is rated 5 stars on iTunes by Elon Musk 420. He says, I think this podcast has given me diabetes, but I'm still living. Fuck. Keep going. Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by RedTube Inc. He says, I'm going to sue you guys for making my child disabled, as he has had tried to snort water multiple times. I am fuming.
Yeah,
So
RedTube. You sponsor us?
Please?
Yeah.
More of a
You're
Pornhub
fine with
guy.
that.
You're a Pornhub guy?
Yeah.
Why do we talk about this at the beginning of every episode?
Well,
It's the worst.
I mean, that was.
Not really.
You're practically asking.
Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Glover102928. He says, instead of listening to this...
Yeah, epic.
Hello.
You're really good.
Nice, man. Nice.
G'day, cunts, and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast. Rated 5 stars on iTunes by Glover102928. He says, instead of listening to the teacher, I listen to 6 guys talk about masturbating. Not a bad review by any stretch of the imagination. I'm joined today by my co-host, Toby.
Hi. I masturbated earlier.
You did?
Yeah.
Cool beans. Swagger's here too.
Hi, how are you? I also, I did not masturbate because I'm trying to keep all the testosterone in my body for when I work out.
That's how it works. Mason is here as well.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing as he's doing.
You are?
Yep. Hello,
Hello.
my name's Mace.
I had no idea that you were doing that. That's fantastic. When are you going to start working out? Joined today as well by Matt. He's a
Hi.
Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Epic Gangster 420. He says, my mum just told me that I was adopted, and my sister just walked in looking extra thick.
Damn.
Hello, mate. Welcome back to the Misfits Podcast,
Hello.
rated 5 stars on iTunes by Thilda. He says, depression has not been cured. Tears are running down my cheek, and my therapist is dummy thick. Thanks for that review, mate. Absolutely
That's like a
awesome.
whole
Why are you
life
depressed
story.
if your therapist's dummy thick?
I don't know, man, because he can't hit that, bro. All she wants to do is talk.
Dude.
Hello, and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast. Yes. Rated 5 stars on iTunes by Big Dick Energy 420. He says, podcast, yes, good.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
Very coherent and
nice.
well-written review there by Big Dick Energy 420.
Yes.
I'm joined today by my co-host, Toby on the telly.
Evening.
Swagger Souls, a.k.a. Eric Vivian Matthews.
Howdy.
Bald Man Mason.
Going on.
Jay, a.k.a. McCreamy.
Great.
And Matt.
What?
What's up, freak bitches?
What's up, freak bitches? Welcome back to the Misfits Podcast. Rated 5 stars on iTunes by Big Cheese Theo. He says, I listen to this podcast with my depressed watermelon.
How big is your cheese?
And how depressed
Theo?
is that watermelon?
How can you have a depressed watermelon?
How big your damn cheese?
I don't think that's a real thing. I think he's lying.
I honestly don't know. I wouldn't put it past old mate Theo. I'm joined today by my co-hosts, Toby,
How big that cheese?
Swagger Souls,
It's rather large.
Zuckles,
But it's wet.
Jay, a.k.a. McCreamy,
Girthy.
Ooh.
and Matt. Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast. Rated 5 stars on iTunes by Sneaky Cunt. He says, erect waffle. He says, well, ignore that part. That was just the subtitle is erect waffle, unrelated. He says, I beat my wife while listening to this. It helps me concentrate on where I'm going to hit her. Glad to be of service to you there, Sneaky Cunt. That sounds like a relaxing pastime, beating your wife. I'm joined today by my
Hey,
co-host.
Fitz, that's really fucked up. That's messed up, man. Domestic violence isn't a joke.
You think so?
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of funny.
What if it's 2 clowns beating the shit out of each other?
No.
What if it's like two like real little people? Like, they're kind of comically small, and then like he trips her over, and she's like, ah.
No.
This is Toby.
Hi.
I'm joined also by Swagger Souls off camera,
Hello.
Mason, aka Zuckles,
G'day.
Jay, aka McCreamy,
What's going on?
and Big Boy Matt. Hello and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Caucasian Midget.
Oh.
She says, I knit to this podcast. Highly recommend. Very entertaining.
Well, at least you're Caucasian.
I think this person genuinely is a midget as well, because their name was like Mini Caucasian Gal.
Oh, I was going to
So-
say, how could you assume their gender?
Well, it said gal, you know. It's,
Yeah.
But Caucasian midget was the subtitle, and it was just more funny to say that. So, thanks, thanks, Caucasian girl.
Hey,
who
can
was
you
also a
come
midget.
visit Melbourne so we can like play darts with you? Like throw her.
Throw her at a
like
dartboard.
that.
Hello, and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast. Rated 5 stars on iTunes by Subby. He says, ultra epic podcast. This podcast is so good, it makes my laptop battery bulge. Ooh. Bulgy wolgy.
Bulgy nuzzles the ball. Roar. X3 nuzzles pounces on you.
Please don't say
Ooh,
that.
You're so warm.
Oh, please stop.
Couldn't help but notice your bulge.
This
from
is
across
Toby.
the
This is
floor.
Toby. Hello, and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast. Rated 5 stars on iTunes by that lonely high guy in the corner. He says, I listen to this when my parents fight. I've listened to each episode at least 5 times. No offense, but your parents are fighting a lot. If that's the case, how many fights is that? That's like hundreds of fights.
It's like 200 fights.
That's a lot of fights. Your parents need to chill the fuck out, my dude. I'm joined today by my co-hosts, Bald Man Mason.
Yo, what's good, boys?
Big Boy Maddie.
Yo.
Hello, and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast. Thank you. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
And welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Hajaka Min. He says, don't laugh at his
Beautiful
name.
pronunciation.
Do not laugh at
Okay,
his
I'm sorry.
name.
I didn't mean
Was
it.
that
Hi. You motherfuckers. Welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by Shannon Hicks. What do you got for us, Shannon? You say, G-Sub's poem. Okay, here we go. Roses are red. Time goes by fast, but you always have time to listen to the
Misfits
Pod. Hello, and welcome back to the Misfits Podcast, rated 5 stars on iTunes by 6 Bedroom Croissant. He says, the Misfits Podcast was there for me when my hero... What are you doing? What do you think you're doing?
Huh?
Put the headphones back on. Put them on!
Always practice safe sex. Never take the helmet off.
Rated 5 stars on iTunes by 6 Bedroom Croissant. He says, the Misfits Podcast was there for me when my heroin dealer wasn't.
Oh, wow.
G'day. Welcome back to the Misfits Show. My name's Fitz. This is the review. Yeep. Beep, beep, boop. I listen to this on loop. Thanks. I'm joined today by Toby.
Hi.
Thank
That
you.
deserves a round of applause.
Toby, why do you look so sad?
Cheer up.
I'm
I'm here.
I haven't had any Roblox pussy in weeks.
I know the feeling, but you know what?
What?
Try harder,
Yeah.
first of all.
That's fair.
You're not putting enough effort in.
I know.
And make sure-
I'm trying.
That you slip, slop, slap, and wrap that dick before you hit that Roblox pussy.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'll keep that in mind.
In other news, Matt's here.
hi?
Let's go! Cause I'm feeling like I'm running and I'm feeling like I gotta get away, get away, get away. Better know that I don't and I won't ever stop. Cause you know I gotta win every day. Go! She really, really wanna pop me. Go! Just know that you will never flop me. And I know that I gotta be a little cocky. Go! You ain't never gonna stop me. Every time I come a nigga gotta set it, then I gotta go and then I gotta get it, then I gotta blow and then I gotta shut it. Any little thing a nigga think that he be doing cause it doesn't matter cause I'm gonna